Part 4. The old master, Joseph Larson, was truly infuriated. He rushed out the door, knocking the door off its hinges in the process. Quince Larson slumped down on the chair limply. None of the rest of the Larson family dared to probe any further. So, they left one after the other. Only when everyone left did Quince Larson take a deep breath. Then, he dialed Yvette Larson's number. Ellipsis. Yvette Larson was seated on the sofa as she glanced at the clock. Half an hour had passed, but nothing had happened. She picked up a cushion and tossed it at Finn Taylor. However, he was easily able to dodge it. Just then, her phone rang. Yvette Larson was about to pick it up when her spouse shouted, "Don't pick it up." Then, he strode toward Yvette Larson and saw that the call was from Quince Larson. Finn Taylor picked up the call. "Yvette Larson, Grandpa is asking you to come to the office and accompany me to Xander Corporation." "Yvette's sick." "Oh, it's Finn Taylor. I have something to tell Yvette." "Put her on the phone." "No, she's sick and needs to rest." With that, he hung up. Yvette Larson was sitting by the side stared on with her jaw wide open. "Who called?" "Quince Larson. He asked you to visit Xander Corporation with him." "Why did you hang up the call then?" "Grandpa must be fuming." "That won't do, I have to return to the office right away." Yvette Larson picked up her bag and snatched her phone from her husband, getting ready to get out of the house. "No, you can't leave now." "Why?" For some reason, Yvette Larson felt that her husband was acting strangely today. It was as though he had transformed into another person. He was completely unlike his usual personality of a good-for-nothing, matrilocal son-in-law. "Don't you think that Grandpa is biased? You're the one who managed to sign that contract, but he snatched that power away from you just like that. Since he's chosen to do that, he has to pay for his actions. I want him to pick you up personally." Yvette Larson stared at him as though he was crazy. "Didn't Finn Taylor say that he would let our family have its day in the Larson family? But now, he is saying that Grandpa has to pick me up personally for me to go to the office. How is that even possible? There's no way Grandpa would ever do that. If Grandpa finds out about what Finn Taylor just said, he will definitely be severely punished." "Finn Taylor, you, trust me." Finn Taylor nodded as he said that. His tone was genial, and his gaze exuded confidence. Yvette Larson sighed and chose to trust her spouse once again, just like how she had believed in him to bring her into Pacific Heights to meet Hunter Sullivan. "Get me an ice cream from the convenience store." Yvette Larson leaned back against the back of the sofa, putting her lean legs on the coffee table. Finn Taylor rushed out of the house to get some ice cream at his wife's order. "Boss, get me a pack of cigarettes and an ice cream." The owner of the convenience store took out a pack of cigarettes and an ice cream. 20. Finn Taylor ruffled through his pockets. "Damn, I rushed out of the house with only $10 on me. I don't want that packet of cigarettes." The owner looked at him in disdain. Finn Taylor couldn't be bothered about that and simply left the $10 note before leaving with the ice cream. Upon returning home, Finn Taylor unwrapped the ice cream and handed it over to Yvette Larson. Yvette Larson took it and started eating it without any care. Then, she saw Finn Taylor return to his room before rushing out of the house again. "Where are you going?" "To get a pack of cigarettes," he answered simply before heading out. Before he reached the convenience store, Finn Taylor heard the owner chatting with others. The subject of their conversation was none other than himself. "Hey, the one who bought that ice cream earlier is the matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family, right?" "That's right, it's him." "Eh, the Larson family is a reputable family. Why would they have such a useless son-in-law? He didn't even have enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes." "Who knows?" Even so, Finn Taylor didn't stop in his tracks. He had arrived at the convenience store amidst the pair's conversation. He placed the $10 note down and picked up the pack of cigarettes he had left behind earlier. Finn Taylor glanced at the convenience store owner, then at the gossip monger beside him. After that, he left without a word. The pair stood entirely still, not daring to say a thing. In fact, they dared not even take a breath. It was only when he walked out of their sight that they finally let out a sigh of relief. Finn Taylor's gaze had been too fear-inducing. It was as though he was after their lives. Neither of them dared to say another word about Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor lit a cigarette and walked into the house. Seeing Finn Taylor walk in with a lit cigarette, Yvette Larson expressed her displeasure. "Scram, have your smoke outside before coming in." "Oh, okay." Finn Taylor hurriedly walked out of the house, squatted by the door, and smoked the pack of cigarettes that cost him only $10. On the other hand, Quince Larson had almost vomited blood after being cut off by Finn Taylor. "I am Quince Larson. I am the eldest grandchild of the Larson family and the future family head, as well as the Larson Corporation's future CEO. Yet, a mere matrilocal son-in-law hung up on me. If word about this gets out, everyone will probably turn me into a joke. But he dared not disobey his grandpa either. If he were to screw this project up, he was sure that his family would never live comfortably even if they weren't chased out of the Larson family. It seemed like he had no choice but to head down to Yvette Larson's house. When Quince Larson arrived, he saw Finn Taylor smoking while squatting by the door. He looked just like a rubbish collector. Finn Taylor, how dare you hang up on me? The sight of Finn Taylor reminded Quince Larson of how he had hung up on him. Quince rushed up, wanting to punch him to a pulp, but no sooner had he walked forward than Finn Taylor stuck out his leg. Quince Larson tripped and landed face down on the ground. Then, Finn Taylor stuffed the last bit of his cigarette into Quince Larson's mouth. Quince Larson felt his blood boil and fume rushing out of him. Quince Larson, Yvette is sick, but that's not to say that she can't go to the office. She can, but only if Grandpa picks her up personally. Quince Larson crawled up from the ground and stared at Finn Taylor. You trash, do you even know what you're talking about? If you want to continue lying on the ground, I can play along. Otherwise, you'd better take that message back. Quince Larson didn't believe that Finn Taylor was skilled enough to be able to keep him down. He is nothing more than a piece of trash. I only fell because I was careless. As such, he swung his fist across. But once again, he landed on the ground. This time, Finn Taylor sat on his head and took out another cigarette from his pocket. He lit it and continued smoking. It seemed like he had no intention of ever getting up before finishing with that cigarette. After finishing his cigarette, Finn Taylor stubbed his cigarette on Quince Larson's hand. Only when the fire was out did he stand back up. Having received a beating, Quince Larson no longer dared to kick up a fuss. Nonetheless, he was terribly displeased. Today, I've been beaten up by the good-for-nothing, matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family. This is the greatest blemish in my entire life. Finn Taylor, just wait and see. I won't let you off so easily. Quince Larson backed away toward his car as he said that. Remember to tell Grandpa that Yvette is sick and needs his car to send her to the hospital. He'd better come personally. Finn Taylor raised his arm, waving goodbye to him. By then, Quince Larson had already reached his car. Thinking that Finn Taylor was about to beat him up again, he quickly rushed into the car, started the engine, and drove off. Hearing a din coming from outside, Yvette Larson had come to check on the situation. But all she saw was Finn Taylor waving goodbye to her cousin, who was escaping in his car. Finn Taylor, what have you done this time? Yvette Larson felt that her husband was acting strangely today. Am I wrong about it, or has he really changed? After I refused to get a divorce that day, even when my parents tried to force me to do so, he promised me that he would change for my sake. Has he really changed? It's nothing. Quince Larson came to ask you to go to the office, but I told him that you're sick. I also asked him to bring a message back to Grandpa to get him to come down personally to send you to the hospital. You, Yvette Larson flared up upon hearing that. Who allowed you to say that? I haven't thought through the matter, so how could you tell him that? Quince Larson will definitely make things up once he gets back. Then, our family will be done for. Yvette Larson and Finn Taylor's argument drew the attention of Linda James and Frances Larson. The couple walked out and interrogated them. Then, Linda James rushed up to slap Finn Taylor. An obvious red mark formed on Finn Taylor's face. Finn Taylor, do you lack anything to eat or drink in our house? It's true that I'm old and might be naggy at times, but we treat you well. I'm just hoping for Yvette to have a higher position in the Larson family, but look what you've done. Are you trying to ruin our family by saying that to Quince Larson? Leaving everything else aside, didn't Yvette say that she'd never get a divorce from you? Do you think you can pay her back with whatever you've done? The first thought that came to Linda James's mind when she found out about the situation was that Finn Taylor was trying to get revenge on her family. That was why he had said those things. Finn Taylor rubbed his face. Mom, it isn't like what you make it out to be. I'm doing this for your good. Linda James stretched out her arm once again. She felt that Finn Taylor was still trying to mince his words and stir up trouble for her family. But this time, Yvette Larson stood up for her husband. Mom, it's already happened. You're not going to solve the problem no matter how much you hit Finn Taylor. Why don't we think of how to apologize to Grandpa? Linda James hated her daughter for going against her and glared at her. Married daughters are like spilled water. I never expected that to be the case even in my family, where our son-in-law is a matrilocal one. All three of them whipped out their phones, thinking of how to apologize to their grandpa. Just then, they spotted a photo in the family WhatsApp group. It was that of Grandpa Joseph Larson in the car. The three of them turned to look at each other. Could it be that Grandpa Joseph Larson is on the way to pick Yvette up? Mom, Dad, what should we do? Let me think. Make a call to Billy and ask him about it. Billy was a security officer at the Larson Corporation. Due to the fact that he had received several favors from Yvette Larson, he was cordial toward their family. Yvette Larson nodded and made a call to Billy. Billy, did Grandpa get in the car just now? Do you know he's headed to? Oh, Sister Yvette, Chairman is looking for you, you'd better be careful. Everyone, including Linda James, heard those words. Yvette Larson hung up the phone. Mom, do you think Grandpa is coming to pick me up to go to the office? Linda James shook her head. Do you think it's possible? Grandpa must be here to denounce us as criminals. Our family is done for this time. It's all your fault that our family is in such a state today. We're the eldest family in the Larson family and should be the old master's favorite. It's because you entered our family that we got swept aside. Do you know the consequences of the old master coming over to denounce us? Linda James got more agitated as she spoke, and she simply picked up the broom from the corner of the room, trying to beat Finn Taylor up with it. Mom, stop it, we'd better tidy up the place. We'll definitely lose favor with Grandpa when he sees the mess in our house. Linda James was fuming but had no choice but to accede to the request to start cleaning. Francis Larson pointed at Finn Taylor, wanting to say something, but he held his tongue in the end. After the couple left, Yvette Larson jabbed Finn Taylor in the elbow in annoyance. Finn Taylor, can you stop fooling around? Have I ever complained when others call you trash and useless or when they say bad things about you? Do you know how many people have advised me to get a divorce from you? Even Mom and Dad asked me to do it, but did I ever agree to it? All I want is some peace and quiet. Why is that so difficult? Finn Taylor's gaze fell on Yvette Larson, and his heart tightened as he watched her tear up. She was the eldest granddaughter of the Larson family and should have been married to a wealthy young master to live a carefree and luxurious life. But due to the power struggle within Peregrine Hall, she had been forced to marry him. She had truly suffered too much with him. This is the last step. Trust me, Grandpa will definitely give in. Yvette Larson sighed in exasperation, her gaze filled with disappointment. You're still being stubborn even now. With that, Yvette Larson left without sparing Finn Taylor a glance. At that moment, Finn Taylor's phone buzzed. It was a text message. He turned on the phone to look at the message that contained only one word, okay. Finn Taylor put his phone back down, his lips curling into a smile. Earlier on, all 36 families in San Francisco had called Joseph Larson, requesting for unilateral termination of their collaborations. If the Larson family wanted compensation, they could seek compensation from the Sullivan family of New York. This was because they had gotten the order to terminate their contracts from the Sullivan family. 36 corporations. There were only a total of 40 corporations that worked with the Larson family. Without these 36 families, the Larson family was basically done for. Overnight, the Larson family would fall apart. Everything hinged on Yvette Larson alone. Joseph Larson had no idea why Yvette Larson was so important to the Sullivan family of New York, but he knew that he had indeed made a mistake in changing the person in charge. Now, he had to personally invite Yvette Larson to come along with him for there to be a sliver of hope of saving the Larson family. Joseph Larson's car stopped at the gate of Yvette Larson's house. Yvette Larson's whole family came out to greet him with wide smiles plastered on their faces. Finn Taylor walked over to personally open the door for his grandpa. Unfortunately, Joseph Larson seemed not to care a single bit. He didn't even spare a glance at Finn Taylor. His gaze was on his eldest granddaughter, Yvette Larson, alone. Yvette, I heard that you're sick. I'm worried sick about you, that's why I rushed down to see you. How are you feeling now? Yvette Larson felt exceptionally anxious and uneasy. She wasn't sick to begin with. As such, she had no idea how to reply to him. Grandpa, Yvette was a little feverish. She had some medication, and even though the fever has subsided, I think it's best for her to go to the hospital. Our family doesn't have a car. Since neither of the other three knew how to broach the topic, Finn Taylor approached it directly. Linda James glared at Finn Taylor sternly. Shut up, you're in no place to talk around here. Although Joseph Larson didn't glance at him, he had heard Finn Taylor's words and continued the conversation from there. Yvette, I think you'd better go to the hospital. Yvette Larson was a little frightened but had no choice but to play along. Grandpa, I'm feeling much better. If I'm needed at the office, I can head over to the office too. Yes, yes, we've run into some trouble in the office with Xander Corporation. You'd better go talk to them about it. At that moment, Finn Taylor rushed out and supported his wife. That won't do. Dear, you're still so weak. You can't go to the office. Didn't Grandpa already hand the Xander Corporation project over to Quince Larson? Since you won't be of any help even if you go over, you'd better rest at home. Finn Taylor's words left everyone dumbfounded. It was true that his words were out of care for Yvette Larson, but even a fool could tell that his tone was sharp and that he was trying to push the blame to the old master, Joseph Larson. He was blaming him for changing the person in charge. Finn Taylor, don't spout nonsense. Linda James wanted to pull Finn Taylor back, but he was extraordinarily stubborn today. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pull him away. Joseph Larson took all this to heart. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Ellipsis. 10 seconds. 10 seconds later, Joseph Larson finally spoke up. Yvette, I was wrong this time. I shouldn't have listened to Quince Larson and removed you from your role as the person in charge. If you follow me back this time, the CEO position of the Larson Corporation will be yours. You'll be the person in charge of the Xander Corporation project as well. You'll have the final say over who can participate in this project. Joseph Larson apologized. Yvette Larson, Francis Larson, and Linda James were left speechless. Yvette Larson stuttered emotionally, I'll go back to the office now. Finn Taylor opened the door of the car, allowing his wife to get in. As Finn Taylor watched the car drive away, he raised his arm above his head to wave goodbye. As they left, Linda James stared at Finn Taylor in disbelief, not knowing what to say. Come in, you were right this time, but remember that Grandpa only came to invite Yvette over because of her capabilities. You were just lucky that you were able to guess it right. Finn Taylor ignored her and walked in. He had already gotten used to such words over the past 3 years. Compared to these words, the betrayal of his father, mother, and younger brother was much more heartbreaking. A matrilocal son-in-law, that meant nothing. A day would come where the entire world would bow before him. Ellipsis. When Yvette Larson returned, she bought Finn Taylor a chicken drumstick for the very first time. Finn Taylor chomped on the drumstick delectably. When Yvette Larson glanced over, he said, "It's delicious." Seeing the innocent and pure Finn Taylor, Yvette Larson's heart felt full. Today was the best day of her entire life. Her family was the eldest in the Larson family. However, her grandpa had always looked down on them because she was a girl. As such, their family had always been below Quince Larson's. But today, she had finally been able to drag Quince Larson from the CEO position, and she had even been able to snatch that project that their grandpa had given him away. She had reclaimed everything that should have been hers in the first place. When she had arrived at Xander Corporation today, everyone had been exceptionally polite and courteous to her. Yvette Larson felt like she was living a dream, and this had all begun when her spouse prevented her from getting out of the house. Every step that followed was well within his plan. My accomplishments are a gift from Finn Taylor, but it's obvious that he knows nothing. It's only because of my own brilliance that I have achieved so much. I have a party to attend tomorrow. Do you want to go? Finn Taylor nodded while chomping on his drumstick. All right, dress up well tomorrow, and I'll take you there. Ellipsis. The next day, Yvette Larson brought her husband to a luxurious hotel. Clarine Landon was already waiting for them at the hotel lobby. The moment that she saw Finn Taylor, her expression soured. Yvette, don't tell me that you're bringing him in. Clarine Landon was Yvette Larson's best friend. Initially, Yvette Larson had invited Clarine Landon to tag along for this party, but because her husband had performed well the previous day, she had made a last-minute decision to bring him along instead. Yes, Yvette Larson, are you crazy? Do you not know about his reputation? Clarine Landon was worried sick. What is wrong with Yvette Larson today? Why is she insisting on bringing this useless matrilocal son-in-law in? Is she trying to ruin her own future, or does she want to become the biggest joke in everyone's eyes? Clarine Landon, you're my best friend. Others can speak ill of him, but how could you? Besides, Finn Taylor is my husband. Isn't it normal for me to bring him in? You won't understand since you're still single. With that, Yvette Larson entered the hotel with her spouse. Clarine Landon was left there staring on in disbelief. Forget it, you can bring whomever you want. That's none of my business. Clarine Landon followed them into the luxurious hotel. The trio pranced around. They never took too many steps away from the delectable dishes set up before them. Others attended parties to network and socialize with other bosses so that they would be in better positions for business deals. As for the three of them, it seemed like they were here for nothing more than free food and drinks. As expected, the trio's actions soon caught the eyes of a woman. That woman looked to be in her 40s and was a little haggard, but the thick makeup on her face expressed her desire to maintain a youthful appearance. She seemed a little sour when she spotted Yvette Larson and Clarine Landon. As such, she took the initiative to find fault with them. "Do you guys have an invitation? I see that you've been eating non-stop ever since you came in. Seafood, fruits, desserts, drinks, there's nothing you haven't eaten. Don't tell me you guys sneaked in." The woman's voice was loud. Of course, it was deliberate. At that moment, everyone turned toward them. All gazes fell on the trio of Finn Taylor, Yvette Larson, and Clarine Landon. "Hello, Madam Hans, what's the matter?" The din drew the attention of many. The hotel staff rushed over. The general manager realized that the rich lady in her 40s was the wife of the Fleming family's young master, Melissa Hans. Although the Larson family wasn't entirely unknown, they were still a second-tier family in San Francisco. The Larson family was far from being the protagonist of tonight's party. The Fleming family was different. They were a renowned family in San Francisco. Now that the Fleming family had gotten into an argument with some unknown people, it was only natural that Solomon Smith sided with the Fleming family. "Mr. Smith, what's going on? Ever since they entered, they've been eating and drinking. I wonder if they sneaked in without an invitation." Solomon Smith nodded, turning his gaze to Yvette Larson and her party. "Please show me your invitation." Yvette Larson had only received a single invitation. Logically, she should have brought only one person in. But this time, she had brought two. It was true that it was against the rules. As such, she backed off nervously, not knowing what to do. "I bet you guys don't have any invitations. You must have sneaked in. Did you guys sneak in just for free food and drinks, or are you here to steal something?" At a party like this, it didn't matter if one brought an additional guest and if one had an invitation. It was already going overboard by accusing them of stealing food and drinks. Now that she was accusing them of stealing other things, it was downright insulting. "You asked us to show our invitation, so why don't you show us yours first?" Yvette Larson was frightened, and so was Clarine Landon. However, Finn Taylor appeared calm and indifferent. All Stars Hotel, it was just one of Logan Yates's businesses. "You want me to show you my invitation? You're really funny. Mr. Smith, tell him whether I need to show anybody my invitation." Upon hearing Finn Taylor's words, everyone present acted as though they had heard the funniest joke in the universe. "Sir, she's the wife of the Fleming family's young master, Melissa Hans. She doesn't need an invitation because her husband is friends with our boss. But as for you three, all of you look unfamiliar. Which family do you guys come from?" Solomon Smith stuck his arm out, requesting Finn Taylor and his party to present their invitations. Mr. Smith, I'm Yvette Larson from the Larson family of San Francisco. I'm a CEO, here's my invitation." Seeing that there was no other way out, Yvette Larson quickly retrieved her invitation. Solomon Smith took the invitation and analyzed it meticulously. Then, his gaze fell on Finn Taylor and Clarine Landon. "How about the two of you?" Clarine Landon was a little afraid. "Mr. Smith, I was the one who brought both of them in. I know I brought an additional person. Do you think you could let it go this time?" At a party like this, it didn't mean much for someone who had received an invitation to bring an additional person. The problem was that Melissa Hans from the Fleming family seemed unwilling to let it go now. "Mr. Smith, if it's fine to bring someone along, you should have said so. We have over 1,000 servants in our family. I'll bring all of them along next time." Because of her words, Solomon Smith was stuck between a rock and a hard place. "Ms. Larson, I'm very sorry. Since you have only one invitation, I'll have to ask these two guests to leave." With that, he extended his arm. More than a dozen security officers gathered around, waiting to take action. "Mr. Smith, right, I think we'd better be fair. Since only people with invitations are allowed to enter, I think it's best this lady also shows her invitation. If she can't, she should leave with us." Finn Taylor walked up and pointed Melissa Hans out in front of everyone. "Finn Taylor, don't stir up trouble. Let's just leave." Yvette Larson tugged on Finn Taylor's sleeve, afraid that he would cause trouble. Melissa Hans rolled her eyes. "Are you stupid? Didn't you hear what the manager said earlier? My husband is the friend of the boss here. Do you think I need an invitation? Oh, does that mean that you don't have an invitation either? All right then, let's leave together. I think there's really something wrong with your brain. Oh, I remember now. Did you say that you're Yvette Larson from the Larson family? Then you must be that infamous, good-for-nothing matrilocal son-in-law." Melissa Hans chortled as she pointed at Finn Taylor. Everyone present came to a sudden realization because of her words. Isn't Yvette Larson the woman who got married to a useless man 3 years ago? How could she be so shameless as to bring him out? As expected, the couple is mad. Everyone shook their heads in disdain. Nobody thought well of Finn Taylor. Coming through, Melissa Hans, what's wrong? Just then, someone squeezed his way through the crowd. It was none other than the Fleming family's young master, Seth Fleming. Or in other words, Melissa Hans's husband. Dear, they asked me to leave the party because I don't have an invitation. Melissa Hans pointed at Finn Taylor and his party, acting as though she had been wronged. Seth Fleming flared up upon hearing those words. You must be the one who asked my wife to leave. I demand that you apologize to my wife right now, right at this very instant. Otherwise, I'll definitely make sure that you won't get out of here unscathed. Finn Taylor ignored Seth Fleming and stared at the manager. You have two choices. Firstly, everyone who doesn't have an invitation has to leave. I'll leave with her. Secondly, those with invitations can bring a +1. Neither of us will leave. You guys can have your pick. Finn Taylor was full of confidence and did not panic in the slightest. Who are you to compare yourself to my wife? Even if my wife doesn't have an invitation, she doesn't have to leave. Seth Fleming felt annoyed at Finn Taylor's suggestions. That's right, you're disgusting me by comparing me to you. You're just a useless piece of trash. Sigh. Finn Taylor sighed helplessly. I've already given them a way out to preserve their dignity. Since they insist on being so stubborn, they are simply asking for this. Fine. Since you guys aren't choosing, I'll do it for you. Anyone who doesn't have an invitation must leave. Melissa Hans sneered. I thought that he had something more to say, but it's still the same old nonsense. Fine. Since you've made your choice, you'd better leave since you have no invitation. Who said I don't have an invitation? You're just a piece of trash. You have an invitation. Melissa Hans's expression was doubtful. It wasn't just Melissa Hans who was in shock. Even Solomon Smith didn't believe his words. All the invitations had gone through his hands, yet he didn't remember this person. Seth Fleming shook his head. Mr. Smith, why are we wasting our time on him? Hurry up and get him out so that he doesn't ruin the mood. Solomon Smith nodded and was about to chase Finn Taylor away. Just then, someone rushed to Finn Taylor's side. He bowed respectfully, handing 2 invitations over. Sir, you dropped this earlier. I happened to pick it up. Everyone turned their attention to the invitations. They were indeed for this party. Neither Yvette Larson nor Clarine Landon knew the man who was bowing before them. They were still in confusion over where these 2 invitations had suddenly appeared from. However, Seth Fleming knew this man, and so did Solomon Smith. His name was Christopher Yates. He was one of the most important members of Chicago's Yates family and the right-hand man of All Stars Hotel's boss, Logan Yates. At certain events, Christopher Yates represented the Yates family as well as Logan Yates. It was incredulous that he was bowing before Finn Taylor now. Solomon Smith was dumbfounded and couldn't utter a word. Even Seth Fleming was trembling slightly. Finn Taylor was just about to step forward to receive the invitations when Melissa Hans cut in and snatched both invitations away. These invitations must be fake. He's just the useless matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family. How could he have an invitation? Before Melissa Hans could open the invitations to take a look, Seth Fleming slapped her right in the face. How much longer are you going to keep up with this nonsense? Look at where we are. Do you think it's right for you to kick up a fuss here? Melissa Hans stood baffled at having been slapped by her husband. Her eyes were full of disbelief. You, Seth Fleming, how dare you hit me? So what, if you dare to say anything, I'll get a divorce from you and make you scram from the Fleming family. Melissa Hans was startled by her spouse's sternness. She had never seen him as angry as he was now. She had a premonition that Seth Fleming would truly go through with the divorce if she continued with her nonsense. Seth Fleming snatched the 2 invitations and bowed respectfully, politely holding out the invitations with outstretched hands. Sir, I'm so sorry for being rude earlier on. It was just a misunderstanding. Please forgive us. Finn Taylor stared at him and said while taking the invitations, I'm not changing my stance. If you don't have an invitation, you'd better leave. Isn't that the rule set by Mr. Smith? Solomon Smith was sweating buckets of cold sweat. It was obvious that Finn Taylor meant for him to chase Melissa Hans out, but he didn't dare to do so. Did you hear that, you useless fool? Why did you come in without an invitation? You'd better get out, said Seth Fleming while shoving his wife out. Melissa Hans was dumbfounded and couldn't wrap her head around what had happened to her husband, Seth Fleming. But years of experience in the upper-class circle meant that she had a keen sense of observation. She could tell that her husband was truly afraid. If she remained stubborn, something might truly happen. In the end, Melissa Hans reluctantly walked out of the hotel lobby and left the party. This was no big deal to the party, and not many remembered that it had even happened. Yvette Larson looked at the invitations in his hand. Finn Taylor, what's going on? How did you get these 2 invitations? How am I supposed to know? He must have gotten the wrong person. Finn Taylor shirked all responsibility and pretended not to know anything. Forget it, I'm not going to talk to you about these invitations, but we must have a chat about the Fleming family. Why did you have to stand up for me today? Do you know that you almost got us in trouble? The Fleming family isn't to be trifled with, the Larson family is no match for them. If not for our good luck in getting these 2 invitations out of the blue, we would have been chased out. Worse still, we would have offended the Fleming family. Do you know how much trouble your actions would have caused the Larson family? Yvette Larson was prepared to go on, but Clarine Landon cut in. All right, Yvette, stop asking him about it. You're clear about the kind of person he is. How could he have gotten an invitation? That guy must have gotten the wrong person. Yvette Larson was still in disbelief. Because she hadn't gotten an answer after such a long time, she had no choice but to believe that that person had indeed gotten the wrong person. Just then, a group walked up to the stage at the front of the hall. There was a piano, a cello, a saxophone, and drums. Yvette, it looks like there's a performance going on. Let's go. Clarine Landon dragged her best friend toward the stage as she said that. There were many seats in front of the stage, and Yvette Larson and Clarine Landon sat themselves in 2 empty seats and waited silently for the performance to begin. Without the burden of those 2 ladies, Finn Taylor felt much more at ease. He walked around as he pleased and quickly reached the backstage. There, many workers were debating amongst themselves. It doesn't matter that we are 1 short. Who will be able to tell? Who says that they won't be able to tell? Everyone in the audience is from the upper class. Do you think they haven't watched such performances before? Aren't those upper class people pretending to be cultured and pretending to understand music and art? Do you mean that I can also choose not to go up on stage since they might not understand the cello either? Forget it then, I won't play the piano either. What do all of you mean? Are you trying to escape now that the violinist has escaped? Finn Taylor had a rough idea of the situation after overhearing the conversation. These people were supposed to perform on stage. The performance should have started, but they were facing delays because their violinist was gone. Someone said that it didn't matter, while others said that the performance wouldn't be perfect without a violinist and that it would be better not to have a performance than to give a slipshod one. Finn Taylor walked up and picked up the violin. He played it with ease. Good one. Where are you from? Everyone was stunned. They were all musicians and could tell from Finn Taylor's playing that he was a professional. Germany. Yes, you do seem like it. Let's go, I'll perform with you guys. Yvette Larson has been waiting amongst the audience for a long time. She would definitely be disappointed if the performance was cancelled at the last minute. The group glanced at each other before the leader finally made a decision. Fine, we have no other choice. Sir, no matter how this turns out, we are truly grateful to you. Along the way, Finn Taylor learned of the piece they were supposed to play, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the Symphony of Fate. Unlike the others, Finn Taylor went up on stage with his back facing the audience. Throughout the performance, his back still faced the audience. All the way from the time he walked on stage to the time the performance ended, all of the audience's gazes were fixated on him. Everyone was enthralled by him. It was as ethereal as a dream. They seemed to be able to experience their struggle with fate firsthand and the differences between heaven and earth and nature and society. When others played, all they heard was music. But when this violinist played, they could visualize scenes before their eyes. Everyone in the audience was enraptured. As the violinist left the stage when the performance ended, everyone stood up in a standing ovation. Clarine Landon grasped Yvette Larson's hand. Ah, Yvette, I think I've found my Prince Charming, he's so handsome. I've been to countless concerts, but I've never been so touched. Clarine Landon was so incoherent that her best friend could hardly tolerate her. Yvette, let's go. Follow me backstage. I want to meet this violinist. I love him so much. I think I'm in love. Clarine Landon was completely smitten. Yvette Larson was dragged along to the backstage. But in the end, they were utterly disappointed. Finn Taylor had already left a long time ago, and the other musicians told Clarine Landon that they didn't even know the violinist. After they left the backstage, Finn Taylor walked over with 2 cups of milk tea. He handed one of the cups to Yvette Larson. Then, he started drinking from the second. Clarine Landon watched on in disbelief. Isn't that cup of milk tea for me? You're not my wife. Why should I give it to you? Clarine Landon was stunned for a moment and didn't know how to rebut him. Why don't you drink from this cup? Yvette Larson felt a little awkward and handed her cup to her friend. Forget it, it's yours. Your husband bought it for you. When I find that violinist, I'll make sure to get him to buy me a carton, no, a truckload. Clarine Landon was full of confidence and determination to find that violinist. It's about time we head back. The party was drawing to a close. As Finn Taylor turned back to walk out, Clarine Landon stared at his departing back, stunned. Yvette, do you think that Finn Taylor looks like that violinist from the back? Really? But Finn Taylor doesn't play the violin. Oh, forget it, what was I thinking? How could Finn Taylor possibly be that violinist? Clarine Landon wondered if she had gone crazy. How could I have suspected that good-for-nothing Finn Taylor to be the same strong and brilliant violinist? Ellipsis. The next day. Before going out the next day, Yvette Larson said something to her husband out of the blue. Pick me up from the office later tonight. Ah, Finn Taylor was stunned. Over the past 3 years, Yvette Larson had never once allowed him to pick her up from the office. She felt that he would embarrass her. But ever since that incident involving the Xander Corporation, Yvette Larson's attitude toward Finn Taylor had improved drastically. Now, she had even asked him to pick her up from the office. Unfortunately, Yvette Larson's family held a low position in the Larson family. Because Yvette Larson had only become the CEO a few days ago, the best vehicle their family owned was an electric scooter. This made Finn Taylor feel a little awkward. Throughout the day, Finn Taylor felt ill at ease because of his wife's words. He repeatedly checked the navigation app to find the best route from their house to the office, as well as how long the journey would take. In the end, he even took a shower and got a fresh change of clothes, only leaving the house 10 minutes early after thinking he looked presentable. Upon reaching the office, Finn Taylor spotted a sports car parked beside him. It was not a bad car on Audi. In the car sat a young man, who glanced at Finn Taylor and asked curiously, "Are you picking your girlfriend up?" "No, my wife." "Wife? That's amazing. If you can get married with an electric scooter nowadays, why can't I get married with a sports car?" Finn Taylor smiled. "Oh right, guess whom I'm here to pick up." That young man looked bored and tried to strike up a conversation with the other. Finn Taylor shook his head. "How am I supposed to know who this guy is here to pick up?" "I'm here to pick up the CEO of Larson Corporation, Yvette Larson. I'm telling you that she's really pretty. A friend of mine showed me her photo a few days ago, and I fell in love with her immediately. I'm going to make her mine." Finn Taylor's expression turned dark. "I think she's married." "That doesn't matter. I've made my inquiries. She's married to a good-for-nothing matrilocal son-in-law who can't get anything right. That useless husband has never even touched Yvette Larson, so it doesn't matter to me." As he said that, Yvette Larson happened to walk out of the office building. The man got out of his car and walked toward Yvette Larson with a bouquet of blue roses. When he reached Yvette Larson, he offered her the bouquet of flowers with outstretched hands. "Hello, Ms. Larson. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sean Fleming from the Fleming family of San Francisco. I'm here to announce my intention to pursue you. Please follow me into my car. I've prepared a huge surprise for you." Yvette Larson didn't even accept the flowers and simply replied, "Lame." Then, she made a detour past Sean Fleming and stopped before Finn Taylor. Sean Fleming witnessed all of this as he turned around. He stared on in disbelief. You aren't that matrilocal son-in-law, are you?" Finn Taylor shrugged. "If you're talking about Yvette's husband, that would be me." Sean Fleming flung the flowers onto the ground. "Yvette Larson, do you really want to be with this piece of trash for the rest of your life? The Larson family is a second-tier family in San Francisco. You're clearer than I am about how difficult it is to move up the social ladder. As long as you get together with me, you'll be able to marry into the Fleming family. Then, you'll be in the true upper class of San Francisco. Are you sure you don't even want to consider it?" Sean Fleming was full of confidence as he said that. He believed that Yvette Larson would definitely choose him as long as she wasn't a fool. Yvette Larson had already been married and was from a second-tier family, while he was the young master of a top-tier family, the Fleming family. What right does she have to look down on me if I don't even look down on her? If it's true that the late old master of the Larson family had set the marriage up, then all the more reason not to worry. At the very most, I will ask Grandpa to speak up for me. Grandpa has a much higher status than the Larson family's old master and can completely nullify this marriage." Nonetheless, Yvette Larson remained indifferent and gave only a slight smile after hearing his speech. "Finn Taylor, let's go home." Finn Taylor's face burst out into a wide smile. "Oh, okay," he replied and sat down on the scooter, starting up the engine. But just then, Finn Taylor's entire face flushed red. Yvette Larson was confused. "What's wrong? The scooter is out of battery." Sean Fleming, who was standing by the seat, nearly fell over laughing. "Ha ha ha, a useless matrilocal son-in-law. Those people weren't wrong calling you that. You're really useless and can't even get a single thing right. You can screw up by just driving an electric scooter to pick your wife up." Yvette Larson felt embarrassed at that moment. Finn Taylor was frantic. Without even listening to his explanation, Yvette Larson turned to take her leave. She had thought that Finn Taylor had truly changed this time. From finding New York's Sullivan family in Pacific Heights to forcing her grandpa to pick her up, Finn Taylor's actions had truly caused Yvette Larson to change her view toward him. But today, Yvette Larson realized that she had been wrong about that, absolutely wrong. A piece of trash is still a piece of trash. A matrilocal son-in-law is still a matrilocal son-in-law. How could I have gotten such an absurd idea to let Finn Taylor come into my life, bring him to the party, and even let him pick me up from work? Finn Taylor chased after his wife while pushing his electric scooter. He used his clothes to wipe the seat clean. "Dear, hop on, I'll push you back." Slap. Yvette Larson slapped him in the face brutally. "Shut up, do you think you're not embarrassing enough?" Finn Taylor had come to pick his wife up with an electric scooter, but it had run out of battery. In the end, he had even wanted to push her home. In the short span of a night, the entire Larson family learned of this situation. The next day, after Yvette Larson returned to the office, Eleanor Larson walked into the CEO's office with a document. "Yvette Larson, you're a CEO. Why are you taking an electric scooter home? Hasn't the company provided you with a car?" Yvette Larson was fuming. "Of course, I could have taken the company car, but I had been trying to give Finn Taylor an opportunity. Who would have known that he would screw up such a small matter? That is why I have become the biggest joke in the whole company." Yvette Larson was infuriated and swore never to believe in her husband ever again. Naturally, Finn Taylor knew that he had caused a mess the previous day. It had been an amazing opportunity. Yvette Larson definitely would have hugged me from behind as I rode the scooter. In the end, I landed myself in this state. Forget it, I will find a way to get Yvette Larson a present today to make it up to her. As such, Finn Taylor rode his electric scooter and set out to get a present. He rode all the way to a boutique selling bags, parked his scooter, locked it securely, and even activated the alarm on his scooter. His actions seemed low class, like a country bumpkin who had just entered the city for the first time. As such, the sales assistants glanced at each other without making a move while Finn Taylor walked into the boutique. All of them felt that someone like Finn Taylor would never be able to afford the bags there and that they would simply be wasting their time on him. Thus, Finn Taylor browsed through the boutique alone for more than 10 minutes. He made 3 whole rounds around the boutique. During every round, he analyzed each bag in the boutique meticulously. In the end, he set his eyes on a red Gucci bag. It was in a vintage style, and his wife loved the color red. Yvette Larson would definitely love this bag if he were to give it to her. Finn Taylor stood in front of the bag for several minutes, but nobody showed any interest in walking over to assist him. In the end, the youngest sales assistant could no longer stand the stifling atmosphere and walked over. "Hello sir, do you like this bag?" "Yes, this bag isn't bad. Please help me pack it." "Sir, do you want to take a look at the price tag first?" Oh, yes, I should take a look at the price tag." Finn Taylor checked the price tag. $30,000, that's expensive. None of the sales assistants were surprised by Finn Taylor's cry. They had already known that Finn Taylor wouldn't be able to afford it to begin with. "Can I get a discount? This bag is a limited edition one. There are fewer than 10 of them throughout the world, so the price." "All right then, please pack it for me. I'll pay by credit card." As Finn Taylor said that, he whipped out a credit card and handed it over. All of the sales assistants' jaws dropped at that moment. They wondered if their ears were playing tricks on them. Pack it, paying by credit card, is he serious? How could someone who arrived on an electric scooter possibly afford this bag? Even the sales assistant serving him was in slight disbelief. She didn't wrap the bag up for Finn Taylor immediately. Instead, she received the card and walked toward the cashier counter. She was going to test if Finn Taylor's card actually worked. Otherwise, they might just get fooled. At that moment, all of the sales assistants made their way to the cashier counter. They wanted to see if this man could really fork out $30,000. Beep. Transaction successful. Everyone read through the 2 words again and again. Then, they rubbed their eyes and looked at it once again. Only then did they breathe out. They were sure that their eyes were not fooling them, the transaction had indeed gone through. This was an old-fashioned rich man, one who didn't show off his wealth. Because of this, all of the sales assistants got busy. Some helped to wrap the bag up. Some poured water for Finn Taylor. Some brought snacks over, and some even brought a stool over for him. The remaining sales assistants hovered around Finn Taylor, asking him frivolous questions. These women were all gold diggers. Everything they said was an attempt to pry out information from Finn Taylor to see if they would have any chance of getting into a relationship with him. Unfortunately, Finn Taylor already had an ethereal wife who was as pretty as a fairy. He had absolutely no interest in these plain and average women. Once the bag was nicely packaged, Finn Taylor took it and hung it on the electric scooter before driving off. As Finn Taylor left, the sales assistants watched his back ruminatively. Even after a long time, their conversations still revolved around him. Sigh, I wonder who he's giving this bag to. I'm so envious. Why are you envious? You're so stuck up, you didn't even get up to help him just now. It was May who assisted him. What right do you have to criticize me? Aren't you the same? May really struck it big this time. She managed to score a huge deal at once. She'll definitely earn a fat commission. Commission? You're so short-sighted. If I can be the wife of that gyno, even the mistress of that guy, I think I'd have more money than you could ever earn. Ellipsis. After leaving the boutique, Finn Taylor made his way to the Larson Corporation on his electric scooter. Upon arriving there, he walked straight in. The security officer at the door didn't try to stop him from doing so either. After all, it was a family business. Even though Finn Taylor was nothing more than a useless son-in-law, he was still part of the Larson family. Finn Taylor walked into the office building and headed directly for CEO Yvette Larson's office, but he met two people in the lift. Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson, Yvette Larson's cousins. Oh, what a rare guest we have here today. Isn't this the famous good-for-nothing son-in-law in San Francisco, Finn Taylor? After returning from Yvette Larson's house, their grandpa had announced a manpower change in the company. Yvette Larson had been promoted to the position of CEO, while the original CEO Quince Larson had become the deputy CEO. This had been a thorn in Quince Larson's heart. Through his investigations, he had even discovered that Finn Taylor had something to do with this. That made him feel even more sour. He had purposely said those words earlier so as to provoke Finn Taylor. This was the office, not Yvette Larson's house. As long as Finn Taylor stepped out of line, that meant that Yvette Larson was being unreasonable and demanding. He could always use that as an excuse to drag Yvette Larson down. Finn Taylor saw through Quince Larson's thoughts at once. As such, he simply ignored him. Finn Taylor, don't be so aloof. No matter what, we're relatives. Quince Larson was annoyed that Finn Taylor was ignoring him. But on the surface, he maintained a cheerful appearance. Oh right, I haven't congratulated you. Yvette Larson is impressive. She managed to score the deal with Xander Corporation. It seems like the head of Xander Corporation, who's the head of New York's Sullivan family, signed the contract personally. Beauties have that advantage. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't even get past the door of Xander Corporation. Yvette Larson managed to sign the contract at once. Finn Taylor, do you think Yvette Larson has some kind of secret? Do you know about it? Why don't you tell me so I can learn too? Eleanor Larson chuckled. Brother, I don't think you can learn that skill. Mr. Hunter Sullivan isn't interested in men. There was a hidden meaning in between Eleanor Larson's words. She was clearly trying to insinuate that Yvette Larson had only managed to sign the contract because of her beauty. Quince Larson burst out into laughter and looked at Finn Taylor, saying, Finn Taylor, I'll give you a present. I wonder if you like being cheated on, but I guess you quite like it. Otherwise, why aren't you angry at all? Finn Taylor ignored the pair. The more he tried to retort them, the more they would try to provoke him. It was meaningless, but the more Finn Taylor tried to ignore them, the more they tried to annoy him by staying by his side. Finn Taylor walked out of the lift and headed toward his wife's office. And both of them followed him right into the office. What are you doing here in the office? Obviously, Yvette Larson was still upset about what happened yesterday. I got you a present. Hearing that Finn Taylor was gifting her something, Yvette Larson felt rather moved in her heart. No matter what, she was his wife, after all. Which woman didn't like receiving gifts from their husbands? But she glanced at Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson, and her temper flared up once more. Who cares? You'd better scram, I don't want it. Yvette Larson didn't think that her husband had the ability to give her anything decent anyway. If it had been just the two of them around, she would have accepted his gift. However, Finn Taylor was known to screw everything up. Why did he have to bring Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson in? Isn't he just digging his own grave? I bought it especially for you as an apology. You must accept it. By this time, Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson had already taken their places on the sofa. The sight before them was amusing. It was as though they were watching a movie. How can there be such a piece of trash in this world? He can't even give his wife a present without being scolded. Sigh, Yvette Larson. I'm not trying to say anything. Although everyone always says that Finn Taylor is a piece of trash and is a martialarts son-in-law, you're his wife. You can't think of him that way. Finn Taylor bought you something out of good intentions. Why can't you accept it? Come on, Finn Taylor. Open it up and let us see what you bought. Quince Larson had transformed into a good old man today. He had even taken the initiative to advise Yvette Larson to treat her husband well. Unfortunately, it was clear that Quince Larson's concern was nothing more than a pretense. While Quince Larson offered his advice, Eleanor Larson had already gone over to help Finn Taylor unwrap the present. What are you guys doing? I don't want it. Sigh, he's doing this out of the kindness of his heart. How could you reject it? Then, the gift was unwrapped as they argued back and forth. Hey, this looks familiar. As Eleanor Larson held the present in her hands, she felt that the bag looked terribly familiar. She flipped it around and analyzed it. Suddenly, she let out a piercing scream. Isn't this the Red Soulmate that was presented at the Milan fashion show last week? Red Soulmate was the bag's actual name. It was just that Finn Taylor himself didn't know about it. Is it? Eleanor Larson was about to continue praising the bag when she heard Finn Taylor say that. PFF'd. She nearly spat out her water. I nearly fainted upon seeing the bag, and who was the one who bought it? Finn Taylor no less. Could Finn Taylor have bought the real Red Soulmate? Finn Taylor, how much did you spend on this bag? Yvette Larson didn't recognize this bag either, but she became a little suspicious upon seeing Eleanor Larson's reaction to it. Is it truly something good? Finn Taylor stuck out 3 fingers. 300, Yvette Larson asked hesitantly. 30. Before Finn Taylor could finish his sentence, Eleanor Larson burst out into laughter. I must say, Yvette Larson, do you really think that a good-for-nothing like Finn Taylor would be able to buy you an authentic branded bag? This is fake, it's just a replica. 30. That's about right. Finn Taylor, it's good enough that you had the heart to buy your wife a bag with $30. At least you didn't get a plastic bag from the market for 30 cents. Although Quince Larson knew nothing about bags, he was sure that Finn Taylor would definitely be unable to afford a branded bag. With that, Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson left the office in laughter. Now, only Finn Taylor and Yvette Larson were left in the office. Yvette Larson glared at her husband coldly. Finn Taylor, throughout the past 3 years, I've never mentioned a divorce no matter how incapable you've been. Because of the contract, I changed my mind about you and let you attend the party with me. I even let you pick me up from the company, but how have you repaid me? Do you really think it wasn't embarrassing when you offered to push me back when the scooter ran out of battery? And this bag, didn't you think it's humiliating to carry a $30 bag? How could you even give it to me? Yvette Larson casually flung one of the mugs on her table at Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor didn't try to dodge it and allowed the mug to smash on him. The bag is real. That was all Finn Taylor said before turning to leave the office. Yvette Larson let out an ear-piercing scream within the office. Outside, Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson glanced at each other, breaking out into yet another fit of laughter. Yvette Larson picked up the bag, wanting to throw it in the bin. The sight of the bag reminded her of Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson mocking her. But the moment that she held the bag in her hands, she was stunned. Something felt wrong about this bag. Although she had never carried a branded bag, she had always gravitated toward them. Every time she went out shopping with Clarine Landon, she would always test out different kinds of bags. Even though she had never owned one, the feeling of holding a branded bag was deeply imprinted in her mind. This bag, it isn't real, is it? A crazy thought flashed through Yvette Larson's mind. Before Finn Taylor left, he had casually said that the bag was real. It can't be true, can it? Did I malign him? Yvette Larson was in disbelief, but she didn't throw the bag away. She was determined to bring it to a boutique and get the bag checked to determine whether it was indeed an authentic one. As Finn Taylor walked out of the office, everyone in the Larson Corporation was pointing at him and discussing him. The news about the bag had already been spread by the nosy Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson a long time ago. That was why everyone in the company had found out about it. However, Eleanor Larson had felt slightly uneasy about spreading this rumor. After all, the bag did look exactly like Red Soulmate. Finn Taylor had given Yvette Larson a $30 bag. She was a CEO of a corporation, she would definitely become a joke in everyone's eyes if she carried it out. Upon leaving the Larson Corporation, Finn Taylor whipped out his phone and sent a message. "See you at Starbucks." Ellipsis. In the Starbucks outlet, Finn Taylor ordered himself a cup of coffee. At this moment, a tall and well-built man who looked like a rich young master jogged over to his side. He was trembling in fear and dared not even sit down. The identity of the man who was trembling and didn't dare to sit down would definitely stun anyone if they were to see him. That was because this man was the head of Chicago's Yates family, Logan Yates. "Master Peregrine, Logan Yates attempted to explain himself, but the coldness on Finn Taylor's face scared him off. "Logan Yates, you should know exactly why I called you here today." Yes, of course, I do." Logan Yates was clear that Finn Taylor and his wife Yvette Larson had attended a party at his All-Stars Hotel a few days ago. In the end, the Fleming family had even accused them of not having any invitations and having snuck into the party to get free food and drinks. Not only had the manager of the All-Stars Hotel not stopped them from doing so, but he had even stood on the Fleming family's side. Thankfully, Christopher Yates recognized Finn Taylor in time and had saved him from any embarrassment. Otherwise, he dared not even think of the consequences. He didn't even dare to think about whether the Yates family would still be around. "I'll give you a chance to make up for it." Finn Taylor placed a photo on the table. Logan Yates reached out to pick up the photo. Sean Fleming. Logan Yates thought that Finn Taylor wanted to deal with the Fleming family's young master, Seth Fleming. However, it was the younger young master, Sean Fleming. Logan Yates didn't need to know the reasons behind it. All he had to do was follow suit. "Master Peregrine, you can count on me. I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer." Finn Taylor didn't say a word and simply turned to leave. Even after he got up and exited the cafe, Logan Yates remained in a deep bow, not daring to get up. It was only after Finn Taylor walked a distance away from the Starbucks outlet that he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Logan Yates felt that he finally had control over his own life. Otherwise, he truly wouldn't even have any control over his own life. Ellipsis. The next day, by the time dawn broke, the entire San Francisco was in chaos. Yvette Larson was awoken by a call from Clarine Landon. Yvette, hurry up and get on Facebook. Something big has happened in San Francisco." "Huh, what? In San Francisco?" Yvette Larson quickly logged into her Facebook account. Everyone was sharing the same photo. She clicked on it to enlarge it. Fuck, Sean Fleming had been stripped naked and hung on a tree with nothing more than underwear on him. There was a ring of sausages tied around his body, and below him were more than 10 ravenous and ferocious dogs circling around him. Yvette Larson nearly burst into laughter at this sight. She could imagine the pitiful state he was in. But who has Sean Fleming offended? Why was he tied to a tree? A certain someone flashed past her mind. Finn Taylor. It seems like Sean Fleming did offend Finn Taylor a few days earlier. Could Finn Taylor have done this? But how is that possible? Yvette Larson got out of bed and saw her husband busy in the kitchen. She sighed and smiled bitterly. What am I thinking about? Am I not clear about the kind of person Finn Taylor is? How could he be capable of doing that? As she ate her breakfast, Yvette Larson stole a few glances at her spouse to check if he had sneaked out the previous night and whether he had any traces of a fight on his body. But there were none. Something major happened in San Francisco last night. Do you know about it? Finn Taylor's expression was filled with curiosity. What? Don't you know? Sean Fleming was tied to a tree. Ah, you mean that guy who drove a sports car to your office? Why was he tied to a tree? Throughout the conversation, Yvette Larson observed Finn Taylor closely, but she found nothing amiss in his behavior. It seems like I was being overly cautious. All of a sudden, she had no desire to check whether the bag was a fake. She wasn't a materialistic woman, after all. It didn't matter whether it was fake or not since it was a gift from her husband. Are you done? If you're done, clean this up. I'll go put on some makeup. Send me to Spottingwood Kindergarten later. Spottingwood Kindergarten, why are you going there? It's the annual volunteering day here in San Francisco. All the important corporations and families will be going to Spottingwood Kindergarten to do their corporate social responsibility duties. We'll even have to compete to see which family the children like best. You'd better not cause any trouble for me. Spottingwood Kindergarten was the most famous kindergarten that catered to orphans in San Francisco. Almost all the orphans of San Francisco studied there. After putting on her makeup, Yvette Larson picked up her bag and tossed the key over to Finn Taylor. Here. This time, the couple was no longer using their family's electric scooter but the company car provided to the CEO. Yvette Larson still had the urge to roll her eyes at her husband when she thought about the incident. Under Yvette Larson's directions, they quickly arrived at Spottingwood Kindergarten. It wasn't just the Larson family that had come to the kindergarten to volunteer. The moment Yvette Larson and Finn Taylor got out of the car, countless gazes fell on them. Amongst them, Finn Taylor spotted two familiar faces: Seth Fleming and Melissa Hans from the Fleming family. CEO Larson, everything has been prepared. Several employees from the Larson Corporation trotted over and reported the situation to Yvette Larson. Yvette Larson nodded without replying to them. Then, two more irrelevant people appeared: Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson. Quince Larson patted the car and smiled. Yvette Larson, this car's not bad, isn't it? I loved this car while I was the CEO. I spent quite a lot on its upkeep. It's a pity that a piece of trash drove it today, it's really devaluing it. As Quince Larson said that, he tried to brush off the dust on the car meticulously. Quince Larson, there are outsiders here. You'd better not say such strange things and embarrass the Larson family. Yvette Larson was pissed. Quince Larson's insults toward Finn Taylor were clearly a slap in her face. You're the one embarrassing the Larson family. If you really cared about the Larson family's dignity, you shouldn't have brought this piece of trash here. Quince Larson's temper flared up as his gaze fell on the car. This was his favorite car. At the time, he had used company funds to purchase this car, saying that it was for the CEO's use. He had never thought that he would ever fall from the position of CEO. That also meant that his car had fallen into the hands of Yvette Larson. He vented all his anger on Finn Taylor. I must say, Yvette, brother was right. Everyone in San Francisco knows Finn Taylor is the Larson family's matrilocal son-in-law. It's such a joke. It's your business that you were willing to marry a good-for-nothing, but why did you have to bring him to such an important event? Aren't you trying to humiliate the Larson family? What are you doing? Yvette Larson was fuming and wanted to rip their mouths apart. There is no end to their nagging. Yvette Larson slammed her fist down on the car. If you two continue with your nonsense, I'll exercise the rights Grandpa gave me and kick both of you out of the company. Only then did Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson back down a little and stop mocking Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor, carry these things into the kindergarten. These are the things our company is going to give the children later. Say, CEO Larson, you aren't going to fire me for asking your husband to work for the company, are you? Quince Larson was clearly getting his revenge privately. They had brought more than 10 security officers, but he insisted on Finn Taylor doing the job. Before Yvette Larson could say anything, her husband waved her off. It's all right, I'll move them. If Grandpa knows that our family personally got involved in charitable work, he'll definitely be happy. Since Quince Larson wants to take revenge on me, I will just take it in stride. Finn Taylor's words caught Quince Larson slightly off guard. This made it seem as though his family was less than Yvette Larson's if he didn't get involved either. After giving it some thought, Quince Larson had no choice but to get involved too, but all he carried were balloons. Worse still, he held only one balloon in each hand. Could he get any lazier? After some time, all the families moved their gifts into the kindergarten. As people streamed into the kindergarten, Yvette Larson and Finn Taylor happened to bump into Seth Fleming and Melissa Hans at the door. Oh, it's the CEO of the Larson Corporation. I'm sorry for offending you at the party. You don't hold it against me, do you? Nobody knew why Melissa Hans held such a deep grudge against Yvette Larson. Even though they had only bumped into each other, Melissa Hans had made sure to provoke Yvette with her words. Don't worry, Mrs. Fleming. It was just a misunderstanding. Yvette Larson knew that the Larson family couldn't match up to the Fleming family and didn't want to offend them. Seth Fleming's gaze turned to Finn Taylor and remained there for a while. After that party, he had gotten his employees to conduct an investigation on Finn Taylor to find out why Christopher Yates had been so respectful toward him. In the end, the results baffled even himself. Finn Taylor was the infamous matrilocal son-in-law of San Francisco's Larson family. Christopher Yates had only been courteous toward him because of his good character. I had been too frightened then. How could I have apologized to such a piece of trash at that party? Seth Fleming was determined to find his place today. Their gazes met, and they both knew that the other was plotting something. Yet, neither of them broke the silence as they simply walked into the kindergarten. By then, all the children of Spottingwood Kindergarten had already arrived at the field under their teacher's guidance. Based on tradition, volunteering day was split into 2 sessions. The first was for the companies and families to hand out presents to the children. These presents would be announced publicly, and this was one of the reasons many prominent families chose to attend this event. It was a competition. If they donated more money and items, their reputations would improve. Then, they would earn even more from business deals in the future. The second session was for each family to present the children with smaller gifts such as food or toys, and the children would be allowed to pick out whatever they liked. The company chosen by the majority of children would then be named as the best charitable organization for that year. It was a great deal to be granted that title. Children, it's our annual volunteering day. Uncles and aunties have brought us many gifts. Shall we welcome them with a round of applause? As the principal Hannah Sanders finished her speech, the entire field erupted with cheers. The children yelped in joy the moment they heard that they would be receiving presents. Hans Technology Limited has brought 30 boxes of bubble machines. Dexter Design has brought 100 learning devices. Ellipsis. The gifts that each company brought were announced one by one. Of course, these were all smaller companies and families. As such, their gifts were of lower monetary value. Now, let's invite the Larson family and the Larson Corporation. Yvette Larson walked on stage amidst cheers and applause. She smiled at the children. On behalf of the Larson Corporation and the Larson family, I would like to present each and every child with a scarf. Yvette Larson's words drew laughter from the audience. The Larson Corporation had become rather well-known in San Francisco recently. Because of their collaboration with Zander Corporation, many corporations and families had started to notice the Larson Corporation. They were also prepared to collaborate with the Larson family after this volunteering day event. However, the Larson Corporation's gifts were jaw-dropping. A scarf? The Larson family is so stingy. That's right, look at that woman, she's dressed in branded goods from head to toe. Why is she only giving the children scarves? Yes, I remember that she came in a nice car with a driver. I didn't think that she was such a person. The crowd sighed. Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson glared at Finn Taylor. It's your fault, you piece of trash. You've brought so much trouble to the Larson family. Although Yvette Larson isn't outstanding, she's not stupid. I was wondering why she proposed giving the children scarves at the meeting. Thinking about it now, it must have been your idea. Eleanor Larson added, that's right, you're a jinx. You killed the old master, and now, you're planning to ruin the whole Larson family, aren't you? Tell us, did you force Yvette Larson into giving them scarves? Finn Taylor gave it some thought but didn't rebut them. It's true that I did mention it. Great, it was you. Yvette Larson must be crazy to have listened to a piece of trash like you. When we go back later, I'll make sure to tell Grandpa about this. I'll make him fire Yvette Larson and chase your family out of the Larson family. Quince Larson seemed to have gotten the chance to make his comeback and was incredibly excited. Finn Taylor shrugged. Let's wait and see. On the stage, Yvette Larson was not at all bothered by the commotion. Children, Auntie knitted all these scarves herself. You can't buy this anywhere. I'll help all of you put them on later, alright? There were wide smiles plastered on all of the children's faces. Okay. Finn Taylor ignored Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson's contempt and walked on stage to pick up a box of scarves. Then, Yvette Larson took out scarves from the box and put them on each child. After putting each one on, Yvette Larson would hug the children. This hug caused all of the children to burst into tears. These so-called entrepreneurs and successful people thought that they were doing charitable acts by donating expensive gifts. What they didn't know was that a mother's hug meant everything to an orphan. These people might not have understood it, but Finn Taylor did. Although he wasn't an orphan, he had been rejected by his mother since a young age. That was why he perfectly understood just what these children needed. Wait for next part.